Hello, I'm Graham and I hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome to today's video, which is the procedure to replace this rear control wheel of the Panasonic Lumix FZ200. Now this control wheel has now become a stock fault on this camera and you'll probably experience it between 2 to 3 years, so that's outside your warranty period. It's a simple enough procedure to complete if you have the right tools and you're not afraid just to have a go at repairing your own electronic devices. The switch is now available on Amazon websites, and it's available on Amazon.com and Amazon.co.uk for sure. I purchased this one on Amazon.co.uk and it arrived in 2 weeks. It came from the USA. So I'll put links to the part number for that product in the video description below for you. So it's the genuine replacement part and you'll see how easy it is to replace. Now you will require some tools to complete this task. Now the screws in Japanese cameras are what are called JTS screws, and they look like a cross-point screwdriver. So you can actually get away with using a 00 screwdriver, and here I've got a kit. These are made by Draper. They're just a generic set of screwdrivers. You only need a small flat blade and the 00 Phillips head screw to enable you to remove the screws from this camera. Optionally, a pair of small tweezers just for replacement of the ribbon cables in the camera. Another idea is to have a sheet of paper with some double-sided tape on it, and you can see here it's marked A, B, C, D, E, and those refer to the case screws. There are 2 screws which will go on here, which refer to 2 screws from the hot shoe, and then 2 more screws which will be from the control dial and the navigation plate. So you'll see these in operation as I start to take the camera to pieces. Now before you start the procedure, you must remove your battery. If you've got one in the camera, you don't want the circuit powered up whilst you're doing this procedure. In an ideal world, you should be using a grounded wrist strap so that you're not going to damage the camera by any electrostatic discharge. But as most people are not going to do that, and if you don't handle the components too much, you will probably be okay to do this procedure without ESD precaution. Okay, let's make a start on the removal of the case so we can get access to this switch. Now the first thing you've got to remove is this spring clip which is inside the hot shoe of the camera. And to remove that, you need to put your small flat bladed screwdriver between the plastic case and the front edge of this spring clip. Just put that in there and just lever it up, and you'll find then you can pull down this spring clip and remove it from the hot shoe. Put that in a safe place, ready for the reassembly. Now you notice on the hot shoe there are 2 silver screws and 2 black screws. Now it's the black screws that we're going to remove and not the silver ones. Leave those in place because they hold the flash head and the hot shoe onto the camera. So just remove these 2 black screws. With your crosshead screwdriver, just a gentle press down and then start to rotate to bring the screw out. Now if you've got a magnetized screwdriver, it makes this easier, and if you haven't got a screwdriver which is magnetized, then if you take a magnet, and if this was the magnet, if you stroke the magnet along the shaft of the screwdriver about 5 times, then you will magnetize your screwdriver, and that does help, especially in the replacement of some of the screws in the camera body. So we're removing these 2 screws, the 2 black screws, and they go into my position 1 and 2 on the paper for the hot shoe. Now we've got 5 case screws to take out, 1 here on the left hand side, 2 on the bottom of the camera, and 2 on the right hand side. So 1 here and 1 here, which is actually on the front part of the casing, but it does align through the back part of the casing. So I've called these A, B, C, D and E. So I'll start over here on the left hand side. I'll remove this screw. Again, just to press in and then rotate. Take out the screw and that goes in position A. Continue around the case We've got our second screw, which will be and the next one and the two side screws, and finally the top. So those are the case screws removed. It now means we can actually remove the back of the camera. Now when you do that, there is a ribbon cable which attaches to the LCD which goes to the main circuit board, so be careful when you take the case apart that you don't just pull it apart as you'll rip the ribbon cable. So be gentle when you're removing the back cover, and you can just put your fingers in the split between the case and just gently bring that back like so, and then you'll notice you can just fold that down, and there's that ribbon cable that you must be aware of not to over stretch it or will tear it or break it from its connector. Now I do recommend that you actually remove the LCD display, and on the connector is a black strip, and that's a locking connector. Now to release the ribbon cable from that locking connector, you need to raise this locking tab. Now you can either use a back end of a pair of forceps if you can get those in, but I found a fingernail just in the center of that and just gently lift it up will allow you to remove the cable without any damage. Make sure your fingernail is in the center of the latch, then just gently raise it. So you can put aside the LCD display. Now you can see we've got access to the rear of the camera. This is the switch assembly that we're going to replace, but to get to it we need to remove this blue panel here, which is the navigation control panel, and then the top control dial to enable us to get to the screws which hold this in place. So the next one to remove is this actual panel, and again there are two screws, one here and one here, and there's a ribbon cable at the bottom, but this unit will fold down, and again I recommend you remove that ribbon cable which is here so that you're not going to strain the connector. So again, the two black screws, take out this one, and I've called that navigation plate, so that's the left one, and one under here which is in the recess, and that is the second one. Let's stick those on the double-sided tape. Now you can probably see this plate just latches into two plastic channels on the bottom of the camera, so if you can just pull this plate from the top, then you can actually fold it down, just lift it out of the channel, and there you'll probably see is the other ribbon cable at the bottom right hand side. So again, so that you're not going to damage that, just again put your finger in that black latch, lift it forward, and then just release the ribbon cable. Put that on one side. So now comes the probably one of the most difficult parts of the procedure, and that's to remove a screw which is holding this top mode dial assembly, and it's accessed through a space here between the control panel and the flash housing. So in the picture I'm showing you now is a close-up of where that screw is, but it's a case of getting your screwdriver into there, not disturbing this small ribbon cable that goes to the connector here, and then removing that screw. So gently remove the screw, and again the magnetic screwdriver does help, and place that on your sticky pad for the control dial. Now that's removed, we can actually slide out this top control dial. Now before we remove the top assembly, there is another ribbon cable to be removed, and here you can see we got the connector and its lock-in assembly. So again, with your fingernail, just put your fingernail in the middle of that lock and lift it up. Once it's raised, it means you can remove that lock assembly, and you can either use your flat bladed screwdriver just behind that ribbon cable to release it, and then we can slide out this top control assembly like so. Put that on one side. Now you can see we gain access to the switch that we're going to replace, this top control switch, held in place by again 2 silver screws which are on the top plate. So we're going to remove those 2 screws, and underneath is a flat ribbon cable from the switch which again goes to a connector on the top of the camera. So we'll remove these 2 silver screws. We'll just place that one there because we're going to replace it immediately, and the other one there. Now, on the switch itself there's 2 tabs with slots in them, and they fit over 2 plastic pips on the camera body itself. So to remove it, it's a case of going in with your flat bladed screwdriver to release those 2 clips from either side, and then you can actually move the switch out to the right hand side. Now again, you notice we've got a lock-in lever on the top control board for this switch, so again just gently lift up that tab and it allows you to remove the ribbon cable from that socket. So that's the old switch out, and now we're going to replace it with a new switch. So the switch oriented upside down, slide the connector into the socket, so, and push it firmly home, and then close the latch lever, just push down gently to latch it in place. Now we can install the switch on that post. Again, put it in position, aligning the screw holes with the holes in the circuit board, then just press the switch in place. Now we can reinstall those 2 silver screws. Just gently tighten those down. Check. Both screws are fully seated and the switch is now on its pedestal. The rest of the procedure is to reassemble the camera, and we can start with the top control assembly. Again, we need to slide this into position like so. We take our 1 screw which was for the control dial, place that on your magnetic screwdriver, and now it's a case of aligning that through the hole and tighten that up. Now we just need to reinstall the ribbon cable into its connector, and again with your tweezers just gently place that into the slot of the connector, make sure that it goes down, and then close the latch. Now we can replace the navigation control switch, and again we need to install the ribbon cable into the connector. So slide that up in place and then close the latch, then gently install the two tabs of that plate into the slots in the camera body, close that in position like so, and then we can install the two screws which hold that in place. So they're the two from the navigation plate. One, two, now the final part is to install the back on the camera, and that involves replacement of the ribbon cable for the LCD display. Now this is quite fiddly because this cable is quite short and you don't want to damage it in any way when you're assembling it. So I found the best way is to put the camera lens down so you've got the camera flat, and then you've got to install this gold connector so that it is in the connector with the gold contacts facing upwards. So holding the back of the camera, so you just got this vertically off the camera, you've got to then just line this front edge of the connector with the plastic, then insert it into the socket and then close the latch. The front edge of the connector needs to go in parallel. Once it's in position, just again push down on that plastic bar which locks the IDC connector in place. Now we can install the camera back. So again, just gently place it in position like so. Make sure that the flash housing aligns with the notches in the back of the case so that all the gap is closed. And now we can install our case screws. So it doesn't matter which side you work from, so going from A all the way around again. So screw A, we'll install those. We need to install the two black screws on the hot shoe. And finally our spring clip, and that is aligned so the two tangs are facing upwards, and then we just slide that into the hot shoe. Just make sure that those two spring clips go inside the hot shoe, push that forward, and then pushing on the two rear tabs you should hear it clip in place over the front edge of the plastic. So that is the replacement complete. We can now put our battery back into the camera, turn it on, get our display working so we know we've got our ribbon cable correctly assembled. Now we can test our switch. So it should switch us in aperture priority mode between aperture and exposure value compensation. So again, by pushing the switch in, now we can see we got to exposure value compensation, and we can change that value. And if we push the switch in again now, it takes us back to aperture and we can change that value. So that's the complete procedure for replacing the rear control switch or rear control wheel on the FZ200. Thanks very much for watching. As usual, please do take care, and I hope to see you all in my next video. Goodbye for now.